Hello and welcome to Guns and Gear. You know, as I was sitting here and I was collecting my thoughts on what I wanted to say, I couldn't help but think that I should have made this video long before now. You know, on my channel, the majority of my videos are firearm related. And from those videos, many of them talk about defense and the use of the firearm and concealed carry, for instance. And I've talked about concealed carry as it relates to the size of firearms, and I've talked about calibers, I've talked about capacity, I've talked about semi-autos and revolvers. But what I have failed to include in many of these conversations is the fact that, you know, the gun is only a part of a package, of a system, a platform, if you will. You know, the foundation to that is a good gun belt. You know, you have to have a belt that's of good quality that will hold that holster, that gun, you know, right where it needs to be. You know, it won't let it droop out. It'll hold it up close to the body, which aids in your concealment. You know, it won't let it droop down or shift or other things. You know, it'll hold it right where you want your firearm to be, and that's an important part of the system, right? Also important is the holster. You know, I have to admit that there was a time where, you know, I would have spent $500, $600, $700, $800 on a handgun, then turn right around and buy that Uncle Mike's generic pouch, you know, 1995. It's real slender, it fits inside the waistband there, has a little clip, and think that I'm ready to go. But what I've learned over time and from instruction is that the higher quality holsters, they bring value and they bring advantage. You know, it's not just the quality of the materials used to make the holster up, but, you know, it's the design itself. It's you know, the different cants and learning what cants of the holster, how it holds the handgun against your body. You know, it's the fact that usually they're designed for specific models of handgun, and so there's a good fit there. There's no shifting around, and it holds the gun in such a way that you can get that full shooting grip that's essential in a draw in a self-defense situation. So it is advantageous. There's value to the quality holsters that are available to us. And that's really what I want to talk about a little bit more in this video. See, I think that they're worth every penny. And no, I'm not going to be talking about a specific type of holster, but I'm going to talk about it in generalities. You see, I'll share a quick story with you. A good buddy of mine, we had a conversation not that long ago, and he was telling me about this new gun that he had gotten, and it was a newer design, right? And he really liked the gun. But he was experiencing some frustrations. One of them was that he could not find additional magazines for the gun, right? See, firearm manufacturers are much better at getting a firearm to market than the supportive accessories like spare magazines. And he wanted to pick up a couple spare mags. That usually comes a little bit later in that process. You know, they introduce the gun, they get the gun out there, and then they began to provide the other accessories and things. The other thing that he was experiencing frustration with was finding a good quality holster that he liked. Okay, and you know, that's something that we really should talk about, that we really don't talk about very often, and that's the fact that in many cases, in most cases, if there's a new design coming out, holster manufacturers have to look at this from a completely different standpoint than the gun manufacturers, right? You know, they're usually going to sit back a little bit and see how that gun's going to do as far as sales and popularity and things of that nature before they make a conscious decision, a business decision, to put in the resources to add a particular gun to their lineup of holsters for whatever design that they offer. Sometimes that can take a year, 2 years, or even longer. Sometimes they may choose not to make that holster for that particular gun. So because of the videos that I have talking about concealed carry, every now and then I'll get somebody that'll either comment on a video, or maybe they'll send me a PM and they'll say, hey, look, I'm new to guns, I'm new to firearms, and I want to get a firearm and I want to get my permit to conceal carry. So what gun should I choose? What should I buy? What is best for me? Right? And I can't know that. I've never been one of those guys that say, just buy this and you'll be all right, even if that is a great choice. Because I have no way of knowing what's going to be comfortable for you. So what I normally say is, if you have a friend or a relative or somebody that has good knowledge of firearms, go with them to a gun shop and handle some guns. See what feels good to you. You may like the grip angle of a Glock, or maybe you prefer a 1911. Maybe you like external safeties. Maybe that's something that you're not very interested in. Maybe you like a revolver. And you'll get a chance to handle different models of guns and see what feels good to you. Also important, I'll usually tell them to then go to a gun range that rents guns and try them out. Try out different calibers. See what you like. See what you're going to be willing to shoot. Right? I can't know what that's going to be. But if you've made a choice and you like your choice, it's comfortable, and you like the caliber and all these things, you're going to be more apt to shoot that gun. You're going to be more apt to spend the time to get that instruction, the training, to build those skill sets that are vital if you should ever have to use the firearm to defend yourself. One thing, though, is that's usually where the conversation ends. People ask me about the gun and I answer about the gun, and I'm thinking about it now is I also need to talk about things like the holster, like spare magazines, like night sights or whatever. If your choice is a new design, you may find it a little difficult in finding some of these things. That's not always the case, but it's mostly the case. And I'll give you an example. When they introduced the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, I remember there were some videos from the NRA convention. There were some videos from the SHOT Show, right? And here's this big introduction from Smith & Wesson, the M&P Shield, and many of the videos that I watched, they also included that there was 2 holster manufacturers that were going to be introducing designs as well. That is a rarity. That is not the norm. So what I would suggest to folks, especially new shooters, is as you are choosing that firearm, you may want to think about some of these other things. If night sights are important to you, you may want to do a little research and see if they're going to be available. If this gun is going to be that concealed carry firearm, and you have you've read about some things that you want to check out, you may want to see if there are holster manufacturers out there that already are making the holster for you. Of course, there's going to be opportunities that you can have a holster custom made, and contacting the different holster manufacturer, whether it's a small time operation or one of the big companies like Galco, Safariland, Bianchi, or whatever. You can contact them and maybe they will make a custom holster for you. But then that's very expensive, and you're going to have to wait for that. So you may want to consider choosing some of the guns that are more universal, right? And there are some guns that are just universal. If there's a company out there making holsters, then most likely they're making holsters for these guns. And there's many of the guns that are out there that fit that description, but I have a couple here that I'll show you just to give you an idea. The 1911, right? The 1911 is hugely popular, and therefore, if a holster company, that makes holsters for concealed carry or whatever, they normally will have holsters for a 1911. This happens to be a government model. It's a custom shop gun from Kimber, and but it doesn't matter about the manufacturer. It fits in a certain box of dimensions, and there's a lot of varieties of 1911s. and there's a lot of variety of holsters for those guns. Just as hugely popular is the Glock guns, right? And this happens to be a Glock 17. It's dimensionally equal to the Glock 22 and the Glock 31, and they are very popular. I would also say the Glock 19 family of guns, the Glock 19, the 23, the 32. Generally speaking, if folks are making holsters, they usually have this included in their catalog, in their lineup of holsters. Now for you folks that like revolvers, it gets to be a little bit more difficult, right? There's lots of variety of holsters out there for revolvers, but you know, when you began to look at those different offerings that are out there, if they make a concealed carry holster for a revolver, most likely they're going to include a Smith & Wesson J-frame size of gun, and you know, you may want to consider that. Again, you may look to a custom holster being made by a manufacturer. But if you're looking to just order something and get something now, you may want to consider what's available to you. Now, I'm not trying to say by any means that you need to choose one of these three guns or something of that nature. What I am trying to say, though, is that before you buy the gun, look and see what's available in the support system as it relates to the magazines, the sights, the holsters. Okay? Alright folks, thank you for watching my video. I certainly appreciate it. And remember to shoot straight on the range and in life. Thanks.